Right. This is another dose of convention tea with Dame Asdable and Jared the Greek, here to talk about AX Chibi 2002.
2002?
Yeah, AX Chibi 2000. Oh, 2022.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
about to say.
our bad. And looks like in the chat we got Rams and a Ninja Turtle emoji. So yeah, AX 2022. I need to get used to saying the phrase 20 plus, a 2-digit number in the tens or something here. Anyway, AX Chibi is the first of its kind spin-off from Anime Expo, of course, if you've been following Anime Expo as long as we have. This is not the first time Anime Expo had their own spin-off con.
It's arguably the most successful, though.
Yeah, because we had AX New York, kind of fell on its face. AX Tokyo, well, that's no longer going on. I'm trying to remember if AX ever had like any other spin-off cons outside of that. They had like small of
bought out Anime Kanji at one point, but I don't know if they.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Anime Kanji still kept its name as Anime Kanji, but that kind of fell on its face. Oops.
Yeah, sadly.
Sad because I love that hotel.
Yes.
We actually do stay at that hotel for San Diego Comic-Con, but AX Chibi was held at the Ontario Convention Center, and I would say there was like almost like 10,000 people up, and people.
There was a lot of people. The place was packed. They sold out all the tickets.
Yeah, it was sold out a couple days before, and you even had people on AX Chibi's on their socials just asking for tickets. But before we can move on to talk further about AX Chibi, let's have a shout out to one of our sponsors, Magic Candle Company.
Magic Candle Company is one of the sponsors who's been around with us for quite some time. They provide us with wonderful candles and car sprays and all sorts of other things that smell like your favorite theme park attractions. So if you're someone like me who has a lot of nostalgia for the E.T. ride because it was connected to your departed father, then you will love this. Do you love going a soaring around the world? Well, they have several scents from around the world.
Hey, I got the Flight of the Avatar Flight of Passage scent, and that's always just lit up in my car.
So yes, if you have a favorite theme park attraction from mostly the Disney or Universal sides of things, you're definitely going to find a scent that's going to make you happy. Whether it is the tasty food smell of Main Street, or
we had ice cream lit up for a while.
Smell of dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
And we also had to smell Rome burning because Epcot.
You have all the Epcot scents. That's the one you
Thank the
decided
Phoenicians.
to grab.
Yes, Rome burning. Thank the Phoenicians. All right, Scarlet Rhapsody is your first time tuning into one of our shows here. Scarlet Rhapsody, we've been reporting anime conventions, pop culture conventions since the early 2000s. I founded Scarlet Rhapsody in my college dorm in the early 2000s. I just wanted to write con reports, talk about my experience, and I just started my own website, learned HTML, posted stories, my favorite parts about the con. If I would recommend the convention, I would take photos of cosplayers, and guess what? I still do this as a hobby. I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy talking about conventions with all of you. All right, so let's see, we got in the chat, getting an ad during a sponsor time is a funny timing. Best website. And then, yeah, I'm just very happy to still be doing this. I've been doing this for over like 20 years, continuing on like what I just started as a hobby. So yeah, our website is a huge archive of convention history dating back from the early 2000s. In fact, you can see photos from Anime Expo 2003, 2003 on my website, and like we had like a huge battle royale meetup that during that time too, back when battle royale cosplay was a thing. So yeah, that's who we are, and we're just here for another dose of convention tea to tell you about AX Chibi. All right, AX Chibi 2022. So again, it took place at the Ontario Convention Center. Now you and we've been at the Ontario Convention Center for smaller events like Comic-Con Revolution.
Yes.
And Comic-Con Revolution, yeah, it's a family-friendly value con that's like about 2 days in the springtime. Last year was in the wintertime. And it never really quite fills up. They never quite really use the entire convention center.
Which is too bad, because usually they get Timothy Zahn and Chris Claremont's. So...
And guess what? AX Chibi didn't have a guest list this year. And it was just basically just about I want to say 10,000 attendees, food trucks. There was a night market stage, an outdoor artist alley where they had to like have an extra tent to be taking place right in front of the convention center. They had the dealer's hall. You had a workshop room, and you also had the cosplay set room, but they only had like a couple sets there. And you had Lounge 21, which is outdoors. I actually like to set up a Lounge 21. Yeah,
we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it. But AX Chibi was definitely bigger than I was expecting it to be.
Oh, yeah.
And to the point where when we decided to arrive, like, hey, let's take our time during the morning. And guess what? We had a hard time finding parking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got there like around 11 a.m.-ish, and all the available parking and all the assigned parking for AX Chibi was already full. So yeah, there was that. So my first impressions with AX Chibi after it was announced at this year's Anime Expo, I was like, okay, it's just kind of looking at like the website, like it looks like it's going to be a smaller event, hence name AX Chibi. And the way they were talking about food trucks, outdoor entertainment, like, okay, it sounds like it's going to be Anime Expo, but like 626 Night Market. For those of you not familiar with 626 Night Market, there are these events in Southern California where it's like an outdoor night market, kind of like similar to the street food that you would get in like specific Asian countries that would be like open to like till the wee hours of the evenings, 2 a.m.-ish. And basically it would just be a sampling of 626 Night Market, would just have like just different food like from around various food trucks. You can like just kind of sip and shop because they would like have like artists like from artist alleys. I've even spotted a couple that I actually did see at 626 Night Market over at AX Chibi. And they even had like a stage where bands can perform. There's will be like contests and stuff. So I'm just like, yeah, okay, like I'm down for an Anime Expo Night Market. Let's check this out.
Yeah, it seems like a kind of a fun idea. Even though it kind of lacked guests and programming, the fact that you could do your winter shopping plus, you know, hang out with other nerds in kind of a time period where most of the conventions of the year are already over. Though technically there's like a couple left here in Southern California because never stopping. But, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see something like this come together.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about AX Chibi. All right, so this is what we wore to AX Chibi. We only went on one day. We decided to just go on Saturday just to kind of see what it was, and decided to check it out because driving to Ontario from where we live is quite a bit of a hike, and gas prices are no joke. And yeah, Soul of a Dragon in chat 666 referring to the area code of the location it's held in. Yeah, Pasadena. Yes. That is the 626 area code. So AX Chibi. We decided to you decided to go as your casual anime reviewer boy.
Yeah, it's basically what I wear when doing my reviews.
And I decided to cosplay as Azul from Twisted Wonderland, representing House Ursula. And popular fandoms.
In my defense, if I'd really, because of different circumstances, I didn't really have a chance to wear something. Otherwise, I probably would have gone as Giyu from Demon Slayer. Because that would have fit like my mode during most of the con.
All right, popular fandoms. So obviously Genshin Impact made an impact. I've even thought about cosplaying from Genshin Impact, but since like all of my Genshin Impact cosplays are just so layered, it was also pretty chilly that day too. I opted not to wear Genshin Impact at Anime Pasadena. I was tempted to go on day 2 because there was a Genshin Impact meetup. Like, yeah, I want to meet other Genshin fans. Genshin fans are cool. Because like, yeah, I actually have choices now. I could bring Jean, Ningguang, or Lisa. But I feel like with the win and wearing Lisa's big ass hat, I was like, okay, I don't want to lose the hat and the hat go run amok around the con. Because that hat, I swear, has like a mind of its own. It's like the choosy hat in Owl House. if anyone's seen the Hell House. Speaking of houses, we also had a lot of Twisted Wonderland cosplayers. In fact, there actually was a unofficial Twisted Wonderland Tea Party meetup over at the Doubletree Hotel. I didn't have a chance to check out this one because by the time the party was starting, I already had finished lunch because, not gonna lie, waiting in food truck lines can take like almost like half an hour to 45 minutes because lines are pretty long for the food trucks, but you kind of have to put that in account if you're going to go for like a full meal at the food trucks. And of course, Spy X Family cosplayers, a lot of Anya, a lot of Yor, a lot of Lloyd, which makes me happy because I like Spy X Family.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say these were like the top three fandoms represented at AX Chibi. All right, day one. So we only showed up for day one. We ended up finding parking over at the Doubletree Hotel, even though we weren't technically supposed to park there, but where could you park when everything else was full and all the signs were just telling you were kind of confusing where to find like available parking. So there was actually like a lot of people turning into the Doubletree Hotel just to secure a parking spot. Anyhoot, so we had to walk quite a bit of a ways to go around the convention center to pick up our wristbands. So, to pick up registration actually wasn't too bad. Registration, we ended up just walking in, just checking in, just letting them know our names, show our IDs, and instead of a badge, they gave us like this wristband with a it's kind of like if you're familiar with like going to Disney World, if you're are aware of what magic bands are, it's kind of like a wristband you kind of have on your wrist, and then you just kind of like just tap in to go in and out.
Yeah, so similar to how the badges at certain cons, AX has done this, San Diego Comic-Con's done this, where you tap the badge, they made it just a little wristband thing you could tap, which is convenient.
Yeah, and I actually kind of prefer having the wristband over the badge because as much as I like having a badge as a souvenir, I felt the wristbands like you can't really lose it because you could also tighten it up on your wrist, and you could just tap in and out. And I thought it was just much more convenient than having a badge with you. At the end of the day, like if you're done with the con already, you kind of have to use scissors to cut it off because those things you can act. Depending how tight you get it, it can be pretty tight. But what do you think of the wristband method?
I thought it was fine. I mean, again, yeah, like you said, you couldn't lose it. Tapping in was easy. It was only at one location, so it wasn't like, we had to do it all the time. Don't know if it would be great for a full, 4-day experience, but we have technically gone to cons where we've had to have wristbands on for all 4 days, so it's not like it's something we haven't done before. I did find it interesting that when we showed up and we were going towards the registration line, there was already someone there bugging people if they would sell their wristbands.
Yeah, because people, even though this event was sold out, people were asking, like, hey, are you going day 2? Because I still need tickets to get in. I'm willing to buy. I'm like, okay.
I would assume the way you would do that is you would have to cut it off your hand and then strategically, like, tape it or something onto someone else's hand.
Yeah, it's kind of funky that
and
way.
And just make sure to hide the, obviously, tape part that's holding it back into place. And then you just tap in like normal. But it's just one of those weird things where I'm wondering if the choice of the way they did the wristbands is to avoid those kinds of things happening. Versus with a badge, it's really easy to resell your badge if you really wanted to.
All right, and you can see here by the time we arrived, this is what the registration line looked like, pretty non-existent. So we just kind of got in at 11 a.m., so we just kind of just walked right in to pick up our wristbands. And this is also, again, this is the area where you just tap in and tap out. Please have your credentials ready to tap in, tap out. All right, so the first thing we did was just kind of browse around the dealer's hall. So the dealer's hall was, I would say how would you describe the dealer's hall?
It was pretty lively.
Yeah, it was pretty lively, and when we got in, it was also already around 11:30, so it was pretty busy. It was pretty packed. Aisleways were pretty narrow, so it can get pretty congested. And I just kind of wanted to look around what was there. I really liked the Terranium type booths, just like this one. I've always wanted to own one of these, but I always get paranoid about always carrying these at cons. And also you ended up getting Gunpla at that one place.
Yeah, there's one booth there. I have their card somewhere, where they had a pretty good selection of stuff, including things that are not particularly easy to find. So I ended up grabbing a Zaku 3 for that purpose, being a not particularly easy to find. The standard mass production type, not Mushmir's custom. That's okay. I'll get Mushmir's custom eventually.
Yeah, another booth I really like was Asian Boba Girl, and they sell like the boba themed candles. Like when I saw her there, I was like, yes, I saw your Pocky flavored making of Pocky flavored boba candles I saw online. Like I must have one, but she didn't have those, but she had the fortune cookie candle, and I ended up making sure I got one of those. There was also a booth that had official Genshin merch, which made me very happy because like, yes, I can finally get Genshin merch because Genshin was a thing during lockdown. And it's just kind of been hard to like find like a booth that sell like official Genshin merch that's easily accessible. I'm not counting AX Prime here, but I do like the fact, like, yes, I can get, like, plushes of, like, various characters. I like the fact they had, like, a Chong Yun plush. They also had, like, real-life gacha, where you can, like, just go on, like, the gacha, like, machines there, and you can just pull for various, like, Genshin-related merch. I was very happy that I pulled for Jean, and that made me very happy.
Yeah. I'm surprised Bandai has not brought over the little mini Gundam Gachapon thingies, because they always make new ones every few months, and you'd think they would bring a few out. I'm not sure what I'd pull for, but I guess I'd worry about that when Bandai got around to putting up that booth.
Of course, you also had like booths that had like decals, stickers, enamel pins. You also had like some fashion booths like Kigu Stop and among others. They even had like that one booth you and I were looking at that had like Gundam themed backpacks.
Yeah, they had them for a few other series too, and I was back and forth because like they're kind of small, but at the same time as a convention bag, it would actually be really good because, you know, sometimes all you need to do is fit in your cell phone, some snacks, and then possibly room for like merch. And they would have done that. There's certain ones if they had them, I would have grabbed it immediately. Like if they had an 8th MS Team 1, I probably would have gone for it. They had like the RX-78, they had a standard Zaku, which would be fine, but I have no Xeon cosplay.
Yeah, if it had like Char Zaku, I probably would have got one, but I was still kind of like holding off on spending way too much. I do like the fact they had like your usual like cosplay prop weapons, Smiths over there.
Yep.
And I just like the fact like, oh hey, I can get some Genshin swords here, but because I'm cosplaying as Beidou soon, like I need to get like the giant claymore thing.
The great swords.
Yes, I need like a giant claymore thing, and I'll get to that later. But
I still find it weird that a pirate uses a great sword. Mm-hmm. Does not feel very piratey to me.
All right, so AX Chibi also had some of the cosplay booths present. And there was like a line to like just get into these, and of course, you had the subway station type thing. You had the upstairs school roof. You had the Japanese like tea room, and you also had dystopian apocalypse setting. I actually met a couple of Kamen Rider cosplayers who were just hanging out there, and they decided to take their photos. And then I also met some families of cosplay family. There was a lot of families at this event, which actually made me happy. Like like, oh hey, it's like nerd family going out and about.
Normally, I see that at like Comic Cons. You don't see it so much at anime cons. There was a time period where you did. I used to see them all the time, like, say, circa 2005. But then something happened. They stopped, and now they're starting to come back again. So I don't know if it's just a new generation as kids or whatever's going on with it. But it is always nice to see the families, especially when the whole family is all cosplaying together. It's always like, oh.
And it's also kind of like funny too, because you and I were just having lunch, and there was like some convention dad. Clearly, he was also a nerd because he was talking Gundam with us. But he was just like I'm just checking. He was just clearly just also checking in with his daughter. It's just like, hey, my daughter has found new friends, and looks like they want to go to Denny's for dinner. Like, oh, I remember those days.
Yeah, I talked with Dad Guy about it because he picked up a Gunpla, and I was like, yeah, I haven't checked out that shop yet. He's like, yeah, that's some rare stuff there I got. And I think he actually got, because apparently they had 2 of the X Divider, because he grabbed the X Divider. And I was considering it, but I actually went for the Zaku 3 instead.
And I would definitely say this event is a family-friendly event. Like, yeah, I can have a meal together, like, over the night market section, take, like, selfies over in the cosplay dioramas room. And there's just like a lot of shopping, and then there's also like a lot of artists present too. You and I, we decided to like just kind of like chillax like in one of the screening rooms. So this con didn't really have any panels.
Yeah.
But it had a screening room where you can like just watch like various anime feature length films, and they also had like a workshops room. You sat in for the calligraphy one because you needed to rest your feet somewhere.
And then they cleared us all out as soon as it ended. And I was like, crud. So I just had to find a different place to sit around while waiting for you. But the calligraphy one was interesting. They made that symbol I've seen a bunch of times that I don't know actually what it means.
Yeah, and here here's a photo of like one of the interactive programming they have, which was the tabletop gaming room. Tabletop gaming, by AX Chibi's definition, was like, hey, like grab a board game, rent a board game, and just have a board game fun with your friends. I was hoping they would like have like card game demos, because I was like going to like card game demo
They
type
did not,
types,
but
which
there
made
were
me sad.
plenty of people playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. So
But I do like the fact there was a
And
space for
MTG.
for a tabletop. I was hoping that you and I could find for like a D&D pickup game, but they didn't really have like any set dungeon masters or quest masters available.
most anime cons, from my experience, do not have D&D. There's only one or two I can think of. Most times it's a Comic-Con thing. And I'm always that mindset going like, well, screw this. I'll volunteer to do that. And then my brain goes like, no, don't, no, just don't. Just, you know that's going to be bad. You know, unless you have one or two friends in there who are already player people who can then help the newbies, you juggling newbies is just going to be bad, Jared. You know it's going to be bad. Don't do that. Like, right, but we really need a table of... I understand. It's like the internal argument never ends.
Also, in this photos, the one other interactive programming is they also have like a retro gaming room. So you saw an Atari in there, and I saw a lot of people playing like old school Mario.
Yeah, they had a pretty good mix of stuff. I was actually kind of surprised because Expo's, video game area is usually more arcade machines and like, a handful of the modern consoles playing whatever, Smash and a few other things. Which, nothing against Smash and a few other things, but more the point of like my generation, I would love to sit down with like just like a old Genesis and play like some Streets of Rage with the rando or a friend. Because that's just me. That's like my childhood. Streets of Rage Supremacy, all you Final Fight and Double Dragon people, you're just wrong. Sorry. But, seeing an Atari always makes me happy, but my always rule is you're not a proper like retro game room unless you also have a copy of E.T. Like they had at Anime Central, where I sat down next to someone who was trying to beat E.T. It was a thing. Eventually I had to move on and play Zombies Ate My Neighbors. But I give points to any con that has an E.T. cartridge.
All right, so let's take ourselves to the food truck area. So they had various food trucks here. They had, I was actually curious about the poke truck, because like, poke sounds good right now, but you and I, we were reaching that like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock kind of feeling where you need something hearty after being on the road for a while and walking around for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So, of course, they had Okamoto Kitchen. A friend of mine was actually working at Okamoto Kitchen. Okay, yeah, we can have Okamoto Kitchen anytime. We have Okamoto Kitchen at home. Sort of, kind of, like if we're in the area where they're in. So we tried a truck called Tokyo Style. And their specialty was yakisoba, and we also had lychee lemonade. Jay, since you're the food expert between the two of us, what were your thoughts on this yakisoba?
The yakisoba was pretty good. The noodles were very flavorful. They're of course those thin yakisoba noodles. Little chunks of, because I got the steak version, little chunks of meat.
The beefy version's all about the beef.
Not a lot of beef in there, but enough in there to give you a little boost. Their croquette was very large and kind of awkward because it was on top of all the noodles and what have you. So you either have to get it with your hand and then you have just a bunch of noodles hanging off of it, or you have to awkwardly use your chopsticks. It was kind of a little strange there, but like that's not really their fault. It's how they have to get it to you. Overall, it was pretty good, very filling. As noodles tend to be. Lychee lemonade was delicious. It's one of those you got to stop yourself from just chugging it all down immediately.
It was so good.
You have to just try to slowly enjoy it, which we did. Overall, yeah, I was very impressed. I'm not really a noodle person, but
When you're hungry, you're hungry.
Yeah, sometimes you want something like that over, something you've had multiple times. No offense to Okamoto Kitchen.
We love you.
I love Okamoto Kitchen, but I don't want to wait in that line for Okamoto Kitchen.
To be fair, a lot of the lines were long, but Okamoto Kitchen's is always going to be the longest. And I would say we waited between half an hour to 45 minutes to get our food from Tokyo Style. So if you're planning to like dine at one of these food trucks, just definitely factor in that you're going to be waiting for a while. And like, you might also want to like just save a seat for yourself. Like, yeah, it was easy for us to find seats, a place to sit down and eat. People there were generally friendly. I was actually quite surprised how friendly people were at AX Chibi.
It looked like we were mostly at parents' table, so...
I mean, not just the people at parents' table, but people just in general were pretty friendly at AX Chibi, which quite surprised me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Also, just, again, just kind of going back into the dealer's hall. This is an example, like just one of the vendors selling like clothes. And this is the Gundam like backpack that we were talking about earlier, based off the RX-78. Also, when I was perusing through the dealer's hall, they had pet clothing, pet cosplays for your dogs. So here you can see a Nezuko cosplay for your dog and a Tanjiro cosplay for your dog.
Oh, God. Dog people.
Also, let's talk about Lounge 21. So I went to Lounge 21 like during the good hour, where I was just kind of like, hey, this is kind of nice. Just kind of like just vibing with Kate Bush, with The Cure. Because they're playing like, the DJ is playing 80s music. And I'm like, if they're just playing 80s music and it's just 80s and vibe, like I'm down. So that's when I decided to pull you from where you were. Like, hey, Jay, they got like these huge Kieran's. And they're like just playing like 80s music. Would you want to just go to Lounge 21? You're like, yeah, let's go. And then you order that big Kirin.
Yeah. In terms of anyone who cares about my tastes in beer, I do find Kirin Ichiban to be like what I always say, valid advertising. It is the best beer. Sapporos are nice, and Asahis are passable. And so if I can go and I can get a Kirin, I'll go for a Kirin. It's delicious. They also had a couple of cocktails, but I was like, look, I don't want something crazy right now. Just give me a nice beer. Let me just relax, listen to some music, enjoy the vibes. And of course, that's when they had to start playing the loud, like, robot fart music. And not only that, but they were like actual anime songs or video game songs done in that style. But I'm like, can't you just play the original versions of these songs that are just good on their own?
We had a remix of the 11 Polka song made famous by Miku, like twirling a leek.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually remember the dance.
And a horrible Kirby remix as well. That was great. So it was in that category for me where I'm like, it's just sitting there just sipping my beer, going like, I'm in a living hell right now. I'm trying to enjoy my beer, and I just get this garbage music. And I'm like, how much better would this be if it was just playing some 90s J-pop?
I mean, if you showed up when I showed up, like, oh, hey, 80s and vibe, I think that would have been fine. Because they're playing Fascination Street and running up the hill.
Yes, and I could just drink a beer and chill with 80s music. I'd be fine with that. So I guess they had multiple DJs or something. But I was like, you could tell no one was like going with that loud like garbage music. Like everyone was just sitting at their tables going like, as soon as our drinks are done, let's get the hell out of here. And I'm like, yes, that was my view. So as this ginormous beer is done, we'll get out of here.
Dealer's Hall, and you went to Dealer's Hall slightly inebriated.
Yes, it hit me harder than I expected.
All right, so we did our shopping at Dealer's Hall. So that's in summary of what we did at AX Chibi. I know it doesn't sound a lot, but we just kind of wanted to just see what it was like, see what the first year was like. Technically, we could have spent more time there if we wanted to, because they had more festivities going on in the evening. I didn't take any photos of Artist Alley because there was like a no photo policy at Artist Alley, and I wanted to be respectful.
That makes sense because of people. Stolen art is a real problem.
Yeah, and we'll go into that in the constructive criticism section. But I will thank Anime Expo for finally having air circulation in their Artist Alley. I'm like, how hard is that of an ask? Because, yeah, AX over at Kensha Hall this year, that was heck.
I don't know how much control they had over the climate control of the building for Expo, but the sheer amount of CO2 was a kind of a health hazard. And you and me were affected by it, but artists were really messed up by that.
Yeah, like you and I were there for like an hour and we got messed up. I can't imagine how bad a lot of the artists got messed up after AX in LA. Yeah, so Artist Alley was in a separate tent outside, and I actually did see a few neat things in there. They had jewelry, berets. I ended up getting some Twisted Wonderland merch. Again, I was cosplaying from Twisted Wonderland, and I got a lot of compliments from artists like, "Oh my god, I love your Azul!" Like, yeah, thank you. And I actually ran into a Jade cosplayer while upon entering Artist Alley. But yeah, other nighttime events. They had karaoke later in the evening. If we were with a group of friends and if this was like an overnight con, I probably would have gone. But at a certain time, like it was already like 6, 7 o'clock. Like, okay, let's just kind of go offsite and have dinner because a few of our friends wanted to go grab dinner with us and just kind of do some post-con talk. All right, let's get into some constructive criticism. All right, before we get into the main controversy of Anime Expo Chibi, my biggest constructive criticism with this con prior to what went down post-con was the lack of parking. Even though it would be easy to say just get there early or just book a hotel room, this is not really an event for locals to like book a hotel room for, because I feel like you can get a lot, you can get the whole gist of the event in one day. But by the time it was like 11, we had a hard time finding parking. The usual place right across the street for overflow parking that was already full. The place that's close to the Ontario airport, that dirt area, was already full. And behind the convention center, I guess they converted like this auto lot and a business park into like parking for the Ontario Convention Center. And I just really think that like places like the Doubletree should have made like official room for people coming in, because we didn't know where to go because all the official overflow lots were completely full. And I'm also thinking like, well, is the Ontario Convention Center, is this way too big for AX Chibi? Because you and we would have loved to like just sat in on panels. I mean, I think we would have been fine if they were considering like another venue, like Long Beach would be fine. Anaheim would be fine.
Well, Long Beach also helps that it has its own little parking structure as well.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah, I just didn't like the parking situation because we had to put ourselves in a situation where we would have to risk being towed. But where else would we have parked in a hall? Like shopping centers, like, I mean, yeah, technically we could have parked at a shopping center, took an Uber over, but we also risk getting towed if we leave our car there for an event. So I was very tempted to even call my friend like, hey, can I just park on your driveway and I'll just Uber to the convention? Because it was getting to that point where like, why is everything full here? So it was really hard getting parking. And I was even reading online that people were like almost spending like an hour looking for parking. So
Not surprised.
I'm not surprised either. So I just really thought that it just was way too big for the Ontario Convention Center. And for me to kind of like be convinced to do 2 days of AX Chibi, to have more panels and to have more guests, and for that to happen, it would need to be at a larger venue. I know one of the concepts behind AX Chibi is to relive like the old days of AX. So, but what old days are you talking about? Because if you're talking about like Anime Con 91, so we go to the Doubletree, coincidentally, and we have a party over there and get Yoshiyuki Tomino drunk and have a private party with the Big Fire Anime Club. And have the dealer's hall in someone's hotel room.
I'll be honest here, that sounds pretty awesome.
It does sound pretty awesome.
They get drunk with Tomino and just be all like, why have they not animated Crossbones? It's so cool. And he's like, oh, no.
And I'm like, which hotel room is the dealer's hall again? And no, these, back in the day, like, a lot of the dealer's halls used to be in actual hotel rooms.
Yeah, you just literally go into the hotel room and the person had their like table set up there.
Not ballrooms, but actual hotel rooms. And the parties were usually run by this anime club organization called like Big Fire. Fire.
Anime club should still run like that would be cool. I would totally go to an anime club's like room party. You know they're gonna play like popular anime theme songs and
Like even at PMX, the head of PMX, Mike Tatsugawa, he was also, I think he was a member of the Big Fire like party squad. So I'm like, hey Mike, like, can we just bring back the Big Fire parties? Anyway, but getting back to AX Chibi, it's like, okay, we want to like just kind of go back to like ye old time days of AX. Like, well, what ye old time days are you talking about? Because the last time, because I don't know, like, I can't really compare a previous anime expo to AX Chibi because I feel like AX Chibi has like its own identity as kind of being like, okay, it's a fall convention, draws in a lot of people, not really a lot of guests of honor, just kind of like a one day thing you do, just hang out with friends. And I do think it's a nice family friendly con. Like if you wanted to just take the whole family to some place and just kind of like just do anime for a day, cosplay for a day, I think it's still a good venue for that. I mean, you can enjoy performances on stage, as you see here, a lot of open spaces. You had a lot of really, I really like the artist alley. I really like the artists they had over there, but we can get into the issues that were present in the dealer's hall in the next slide. All right, so unfortunately, I wanted to play this video by a friend of mine, but I'll link it in the bio when we have this on YouTube. So the biggest controversy that came out of AX Chibi, because you cannot have an anime expo without post-con controversy.
Yep.
So the big controversy that came out of AX Chibi was a booth was selling AI generated art. And this was, I mainly saw this booth in the dealer's hall. I don't think I saw them in the artist alley. Because I only went to the artist alley like just maybe once to just kind of peruse and just browse around. Maybe they were also present at the artist alley. I don't know, but I definitely did see them at the I definitely did see them at inside the dealer's hall. And other things I didn't know, just listening to my friend Amanda over here, like I didn't know it was that competitive to get a booth at Artist Alley and in the dealer's hall. I mean, I guess that's how they keep things varietized. So, like, it's not the same, like, Funko Pop booth every other booth, because I do see that trend happen at a lot of pop culture conventions.
Oh, yeah.
Because I do appreciate the variety of booths that were present at AX Chibi. I think they did a good job on that. But I really think they really need to screen more, do some extra screening on booths that could be possibly selling AI generated art. And once this happens, they need to be kicked out right away. Because this is like, you're working off stolen art, and that's really bad. You're like making off money off that art that isn't yours. And that's just really bad. And the fact that like it's so competitive to get a space here to sell, you're taking away space from an honest vendor that should be there. So I just kind of feel like, yeah, they should have been like got booted once they were found out selling AI generated art. And when someone did bring them up as an issue, it looked like they were still there. They even like went on to like just post like this whole thing on their social media saying like, oh yeah, blah 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 blah, like haters gonna hate. I'm just paraphrasing here, but you can look it up all on Twitter. But again, you cannot have an anime expo without some post-con controversy. And I really think that, like, we as consumers in these dealers' halls need to just take a stand and just let our conventions that we go to know that we do not want booths selling AI-generated art, because it's theft. And it's also taking away space from vendors who should be there and who really want to be there, especially in the competitive space like AX Chibi, where it is hard to get a booth and you have to like fight tooth and nail to get a space to sell there. And that's just my 2 cents on that. Jay, any thoughts?
On this or in general criticism?
Either or. Because we can also move towards your general criticism.
Well, here's the thing. this felt like an experiment to me. Like they were trying to see like how popular would this be, which is why they chose a smaller venue. Because let's just say hypothetically this had only brought in like 2,000 people. Because it's a smaller venue, it still would have seemed like there was a decent amount of people there. And, you know, it would be like, yeah, we got about the right amount of people for the amount of stuff here. I don't think the staff was really expecting, you know, to sell out. I think they're happy that they did. I just don't think they were expecting it. I don't think they were expecting this to be as popular as it was. And the fact that it was goes to show that there's easily a demand for a fall anime convention that can really, you know, satisfy the clientele by providing, you know, a lot of artists, a lot of vendors. I mean, the only thing this event was really missing was programming and guests. And like you said, if they moved to a larger venue like Long Beach or something like that, you could easily have those and even accommodate a higher number of people than what they had this time. Now, whether they're willing to take on that challenge is a whole nother discussion. But I myself was kind of, as soon as I found out the programming was essentially going to be removed from the schedule, I was like, oh, well, then there's probably not going to be that many people here. That's probably why they're trying to, you know, trim things off. You know, why have programming if we're only going to have, like, you know, 1,000 people here? Not that people won't go to programming if there's that many, but why put out the efforts to have an extra room when you don't necessarily need it? And of course, it was very popular, so what you're coming up with is what are they going to kind of do next? And how are they going to deal with this next year? If they're stuck in a contract, let's say, with the Ontario Convention Center, then they're going to have to figure out how to deal with the parking situation and things like that, and whether or not they want to add in programming, because there's obviously a large enough group of people here where you could have one panel room and one workshop room and one video room and probably satisfy everyone's needs. So that's kind of where it is. In terms of what they did the best of what they had available. I like the fact that they had those rooms for the artists, or the tents for the artists, and also a pathway between the artist alley and the dealer hall. So you can just go between the two if you just want to have a fun shopping adventure. In addition to that, I mean, everyone loves the food trucks.
I love the food trucks.
Lounge 21 is always nice. It'd just be better. They need to stop having a DJ and literally just have someone with like an iPod shuffle. Wow, that's bringing it back. Yeah, bring out your old iPod shuffle, fill it up with like the most popular anime songs from.
Or just get a Spotify.
Yeah, a Spotify just set it to the anime channel and then just be done with it. Because blasting out, you know, crazy rave music or whatever is not really going to do it when that's not the atmosphere or the people who are at the place. Because I could see Lounge 21 as a great place for, you know, fans, like older 21 plus fans to hang out, talk, maybe meet new friends, especially because the older you get, the harder it is to make friends. And to be able to have those kind of meetings and stuff, or even industry people to hang out, have a drink, and talk. There's a lot of potential there. They just need to handle it better. And, you know, beyond that, they did a pretty good job. They utilized the space as best they could. You know, I had nothing but compliments for the retro gaming room, and tabletop's going to be what it is. It'd be nice if they had some D&D, but I get it.
It'd be nice if they had like some demos, like from.
That requires bringing in the companies that have those games, though.
Be nice, because I always like just trying out new card games, or like even bring some indie people over. Like I want to learn a new card game. I always find those demos fun.
Yeah, I played a few at what's it called, OrcCon. At OrcCon, I played a few, and I was like, yeah, I'm having a good time. I'm actually enjoying this.
So I really do think that AX Chibi has some potential. It's just really interesting to see what they plan to do with this moving forward. Because the fact that we have like thousands of people show up to this shows, again, does show demand for. The demand is there for a fall anime convention, and they do have the numbers. And it also just goes to show you that even though with all the criticism that Anime Expo has going for it, the AX brand is pretty strong within the otaku nerd community out here.
Yeah.
And here's you buying your Gundam.
Hey, I also just realized something. This is one of the few anime events that's over in that area. In like this, it's not exactly 909, but 909 adjacent. And I think Ontario's 909. I know it's not 9.
Someone look up Ontario's
If it's
area
909 or
code.
not.
The one in
But
California, not Canada.
We're closer to the 909, and it's better than garbage like Anime Riverside and stuff like that. So, giving people in that area a more local convention is always going to be a thing because there's a lot of areas. Okay, if you're in LA, there's an unnecessary amount of conventions. But if you're like in the Inland Empire, if you're in San Diego, surprisingly, especially San Diego, you think there'd be a lot more. There's not as many as you might think. And I feel that those underserved areas are definitely brimming with people who would totally go and go full fry and wave their money around and go, shut up and take my money.
Like, you and I were even joking about, like, hosting an anime con at Town and Country Inn, but do, like, an old school anime, but focus on old school anime.
Yeah, stuff like that could work out pretty well. Because you can
Because
still have a
there's-
dealer hall that sells whatever. You can buy your Demon Slayers and your Jujutsu Kaisens and all them.
You like those.
I do. But make the programming in the video room more a little more old school, 90s, 80s, 70s, and teach them kids about them old school Japanimes. Set up a few
And then
gatherings
also
of
have
older
your
shows.
boozy milkshakes, too.
Well, but again, that's, on the hotel to sell hotel stuff. But you have a kick-ass pool over there. You have some really nice buildings. A nice venue like that for a smaller con, like when it was used by Anime Kanji, can work and actually be pretty fun.
All right, so when are we running anime old school?
When someone finances it.
That'd be nice. I would totally go to anime old school. Anywho, well, that's generally our final thoughts on Anime Expo Chibi. Wondering where this is going to go moving forward. It's very interesting to see how this plays out. Fall is always a funky time in Southern California con-wise because we got LA Comic-Con, Long Beach Comic-Con, PMX, now this, Anime Pasadena, kind of clustered around the same time frame. So we'll just see moving forward where AX Chibi fits into all of this.
But it's definitely popular enough that they're, unless some sort of financial shenanigans happened behind the scenes that we don't know about, they should easily be able to afford a part 2.
All right. With that said, Ramsey says, Geriatric Anime Con 2023 at the Denny's down the road. We're more of a Norms family. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Convention Tea. It's always great having all of y'all in the chat interacting with us. We always like doing these shows for you. My next convention that I'll be covering on the show will be Anime Pasadena because I've been invited to judge people.
You don't need to be invited to do that. You'll do that at a con regardless.
This is true. Anyway, this has been Jay and Scarlett for another edition of Convention Tea. And remember, the convention is what you make of it, so make it a good one. And we can just hang out here and chat for a bit with our friends in the chat.
Yay.
Let's see. Let me just scroll up here. Okay, Soul of a Dragon says Google says it's 909, but some areas overlay with the 840 area code as well. So yes, you were right.
Yeah, as I said, it's the underserved 909 area, which really could use some events.